You know, it's interesting. Recently, I've been reading a book by Bart Ehrman, the very well-known and very, really interesting biblical scholar. He's a scholar of really the history of Christianity. And he's written a book called Heaven and Hell. It's really a history of the concept of the afterlife in primarily Christianity, but he talks about, so he makes reference to various conceptions of the afterlife in primarily Western traditions. And one of the things that I found really interesting about this book was he was talking about all these very old conceptions of the afterlife from various very early Christian perspectives, you know, like first century Christian perspectives. And he says that there's a couple of examples that he gives of people giving these, you know, reporting like near-death experiences or visions or dreams that they have of the afterlife. And he knows how that a lot of them seem to put a lot of emphasis on how bad hell is, and next to no emphasis on how great heaven is. And I wanted to maybe end here by saying that this is something I've also noticed with Heaven's Gate. I said earlier that the next level is such an important concept to understand, to make sense of their whole belief system. Everything they believed, everything they did was to get to the next level. And how do you get to the next level? Well, you have to act next level. So you have to embody the mindset and the set of behaviors that are required for entry into this higher kingdom. No one who is still behaving like a human can enter the next level. That's how they understood it. So that's why they needed to overcome their humanness. But wouldn't you know it, in a lot of these essays and a lot of these videos, a lot of their materials, even on their website, when you see this picture of the famous gray, big-headed, smiling alien, the caption underneath that image, which was designed by one of the members of the group, is how a member of the next level might appear. So they were even leaving open the possibility that it might not even look exactly like how they thought. By contrast, they spoke endlessly about how terrible, awful, and every other negative synonym we could possibly come up with to refer to this world, this life, this level of existence. A lot of emphasis on how terrible this world was, and very little about how great the next level was. Not to say that they didn't think it was going to be great, but just it's interesting to note how much time and effort was put into reflecting and, internally within the group, reflecting on how bad this world is and trying to convey that to other people. There's a lot of things that we could draw from that, and this is a relatively recent observation that I've found myself making. But I will say this, I think that one thing that I personally draw from that, connecting it to what I do already know about the people who joined this movement and unfortunately brought an end to their lives in accordance with its teachings, is that a lot of them kind of already felt that way when they joined. And one of the things that I think attracted people to Heaven's Gate was not just the promise of a better world, but it was also the fact that Heaven's Gate's theology explicitly and overwhelmingly validated the feeling that this world was pretty shitty.
You know, maybe they're crazy for all I know, but I don't have any choice but to go for it. There's nothing here for me.
What we're about to do is certainly nothing to think negatively about.
One last question. How do you feel about what is ahead for us?
Oh, hey, this is the happiest day of my life. I mean, I've been looking forward to this for so long.
And unfortunately, rather than, convert that dissatisfaction into something a little more constructive that was more rooted in this world, for example, taking that dissatisfaction, that frustration, and that creativity, that immense, remarkable degree of creativity that these individuals had, that they used to construct this elaborate, complicated belief system, taking that and applying it maybe to, the question of, well, maybe this world could be made a little bit better. Maybe we can leave this world a little bit better than the way we found it. But for one reason or another, that's not how the Heaven's Gate belief system developed. And so I do wonder if that had a lot to do with it. That at the end of the day, perhaps the Heaven's Gate theology, despite on the surface being about let's get to the next level and let's become next level, maybe just as much, if not more than that, it was also about let's leave this world. Let's not be human.